Welcome to webinar number 8. Is about this table, task 1, and I thought it's kind of a difficult table to write about, so I thought it would be nice to think about it and write about it. So I have written the essay, so I will just show you the paragraphs one by one, and then we will talk about it, okay? All right, so before that, let's have a look at the table and let me know what do you think. What are some things that are interesting for you about this?
So I think the key features, you have to talk about the total number of release and the highest number of release in two genre. And I was thinking like the lowest number of release at one movie. And then I was thinking the highest income they have earned. And I want to talk about especially about the biopic, because it's only have one release, but it has a considerably higher income compared to the documentary and drama, which has highest release, but their income is very low.
Yes. So this number is important here because you can see that the biopic here, there's only one biopic film released in 2012. So the percentage is corresponding, but the film was very successful. It takes up almost 100 or 9, almost 10%, 9.1, well, almost 9% of all sales of ticket sales, which is a very, very good number. You can compare that with here, when here we have Thriller, we have 13 films released, but they take up only 1%, 1.3, or Romance 5, and they take up only 0.8%, under 1%. So that's a very successful movie. The other key feature is drama and documentary. So drama here and documentary, they both have 23.6. So, and that's because they were both they both included 35 films in the release numbers. The lowest number here, that's also important, which is 0.8, I think. Yeah, 0.8 for romance. So romance is basically the least popular genre, but that doesn't mean that it's the least released genre. The least released or least produced genre is biopic, which is biography. Basically, we call it biography. And remember that when you are writing about things like this, when you have a category called other, that's not really a category. That's not a genre. We don't have a film genre called other, so you have to be careful about not including that. You can't include that in the number of genres. That's just a separate thing and has to be discussed separately. And yes, you're right. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question, please. You said that romance has the least, but if we compare the documentary, it has 35 release and just 2.9. So it's if you compare to the number of films, the incomes, it's much less than 0.8.
Yes, but we don't look at it in terms of how much one film made. We are looking at it in terms of how much the entire genre made.
Okay.
Because if you go based on, okay, how much one film made, then you have to calculate that. The math will become complicated, and the task doesn't require you to do that. Say, okay, how much one documentary film made, as opposed to one romance film. You don't need to calculate that.
Okay. And I have another question, Kara. You talk about success, and in as an overall, we can talk about popularity in this case.
I talked about popularity. I said, well, whatever this is, this is a measure of popularity. And this is a measure of production, film production. Okay? And so those two, you have to keep them separate. So let me just show you the first paragraph here. So as you know, in task 1, just to repeat, for the introduction, we just say what is happening and we try to mention all the different aspects of the table. Okay, so the present table provides data on the number of films released in the UK and Ireland in 2012. That should be not 2021, but 2012. As well as the ticket sales data, all of which are categorized by 9 main genres. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this other is not included in the genres. And so a few things that are important here, you have to mention where it's happening, the UK and Ireland, and then in 2012, and then you have to talk about each one of these, so by genre, and also number of releases and income. So here in the introduction, you don't have to talk about the percentage of release, because that's basically the same thing as the number in terms of proportions. Okay, any questions?
Kara, about all of which it's include the number of film data and the ticket sale data?
Yes, it includes all of the information that was provided in the main clause. Yes. So overall, we talked about the main features. So remember that in the overall, you are basically expected to talk about the main trends and avoid just saying this was highest, this was lowest, and these sorts of things. You're supposed to talk about what the main trend is. So you have to be careful about that when you're writing your overall. So this is my overall. Let's read it slowly, carefully. Overall, most of the releases belong to the drama and documentary genres. Okay, so I'm talking about this number here and this number here. Drama and documentary genres, which together constituted almost half of the releases. Okay, so why do I say almost half of the releases? Because here 23% and 23% together is going to be about 47%. And here maybe I should make that a little bit clearer. I include nonetheless because when these two are the highest, then you expect them to sell more too, but that is not the case. They don't sell more. What sells more is horror and comedy. So that's why we include nonetheless here, to show that surprise there. Viewers were instead most interested in comedy. So comedy has the highest number. Okay, well, you can say comedy and horror, but I just said comedy because I said most. And avoided romance movies. So here again, romance has the lowest number, so that means that people were not interested in watching romance movies. Thrillers and documentaries. So, okay, romance movies, 0.8. Thrillers, 1.3. And documentaries, 2.1. Those are the 3 lowest numbers. And documentaries. And why do I say that? As evidenced by ticket sales percentages. What is more, this is an introductory element that you can use. Unlike drama and documentaries, very few biopic and action films were made. So biopic, you see there was only 1, and then action there was only 4. So that accounts for very few. So I said very few biopic and action films were made in 2012, making them the least active genres in terms of releases. In terms of releases, but not in terms of sales. So you have to include that. Okay, have a look at it and let me know if you would like any explanation or have any questions.
Kara, instead of what is more, what else we can use as introductory elements here?
Yes, but interestingly could be used. But it's not really, we're not really talking about something that is out of the ordinary or something, a piece of data that is surprising to us. So interestingly would be used for that, or surprisingly. So here I would just say additionally, in addition, furthermore, but those are used a lot, so I try to use something new.
So here, what is more is a noun clause, right, Kara?
I guess.
Kara, instead of nonetheless, can we use however here?
You can use however, but nonetheless has a little bit of a different meaning. Okay, nonetheless means despite what came before.
Okay.
However means I'm trying to create a contrast. So when you say despite what came before, that is a contrast. But when you say nonetheless, that is more nuanced. Okay, and however is just less nuanced, and it's something that everybody uses. So remember that when you try to use things that everybody else uses, it makes it look a little bit trite for the examiner.
Okay. I have another question, Kara, about as evidenced. Can we use the word as showed by ticket sale percentages?
As shown, yes. As evidenced is a little bit different. Evidenced means the evidence for this claim that I have is coming from here. So evidenced by something, it means my proof is here.
I'm sorry, Kara. Evidenced by is a verb here?
Evidenced by, no. Evidenced is an adjective, and by is just a preposition, yeah.
Kara, how is evidence is adjective?
Evidenced, because it has ed.
Yeah, but it's a subordinate clause that you are making, right?
Here,
or a preposition you're
no.
using.
Here, this is a phrase.
A prepositional phrase, as.
Yeah. Paragraph, which is body paragraph number 1. So before I show you body paragraph number 1, take a look and tell me how would you divide this information into 2 parts. So as you know, in the overall, you just talk about what is happening, like the overall trend. And then in the body paragraphs, you have to have at least 2 body paragraphs that shows that you are logically organizing the material. That's important to get above band score 7. And if your logic is clear, then that will get you even higher than band score 7. So using paragraphs is absolutely necessary to get band score 7. Even for 6.5 it's necessary. And then having a clear logic for dividing the information. So take a look at it and let me know.
I would go with popular genres and unpopular, less popular ones. More popular and less popular.
So more popular would be what?
Until drama.
Okay, so these together.
And this
And
together.
then, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. It's a little bit, this one would be a little bit bigger, but
I thought, Kara, about the number of release. So the gender of movie that release more than 10 movies and less than 10 movies. So like this, it can be almost equal.
So that would mean documentary and thriller and drama and horror and comedy, all of that in one group.
Yes.
And everything else in it. Yeah, that's a good way too. Yeah, so that's actually what I have done. From the total of 148 films released, the bulk was in drama and documentary, each 35. So now we are past the overall, so now we need to mention numbers. That's important. Comedy 26, horror 14, and thriller 13. Okay, and 148, that's an important number to mention, which is here. Now a complex sentence. Well, drama and documentary films made up 47.2 of all the releases. That means I put these 2 numbers together, and that became 47.2. Okay, they did not lead the sales. It was rather, now instead of saying however, which will make it mechanical, I put rather here, and this is a higher band score cohesion because it's less mechanical. It was rather comedy and horror, which ranked higher and sold 45.4 and 20.2 respectively. Okay, and here actually as I'm reading, I'm realizing that this is restrictive, so I would change that to that ranked. So comedy and horror, those are the two films that were selling more, that ranked high. And I don't say the highest because comedy is the highest, but horror is not. So I just say high, and sold 45.4 and 20.2 respectively. I'm just reporting these two numbers here. Other films in the group had much smaller market shares, all below 10%. So when I'm talking about market shares, I'm talking about these numbers here. And of course, I'm not reporting all of these. I'm just reporting drama, and I'm reporting documentary, and I'm reporting thriller. And you can see drama, documentary, thriller. All three of those have numbers below 10. And I don't have to mention everything. Okay, I'm trying to keep it short. So I just mentioned that these were below 10%, and I leave it at that. As it is right now, I am at 248 words for this essay. Okay, so I'm just trying to be succinct. Okay, any questions?
Kara, I have a question, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I mention the total number of films, and instead of using the number of films, I just use a percentage, as it can be, we can compare more easy than the percentage of release with the percentage of income. It's going to be okay or not?
Percentage of release and percentage of income. Yeah, that's a good idea to compare the percentage of release and percentage of income. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I did not do that. What I did was I basically assumed that these two go together and this one is separate because it's a different concept.
Okay. Thank you, Kara.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to show you the second body paragraph here. On the other hand, release numbers for biopic, crime, action, and romance genres were all in the single digits. So here I say the bulk, which means the majority, and here I say those that were in the single digits. Okay, which means all of these numbers, biopic, crime, action, romance, and other two. I should mention that too, but I don't mention that as a genre, as you can see. Single digit as 1, 7, 4, and 5 films. 5 films, right? And here I should include respectively. Among these, biopic and action films were the lowest. Okay, so biopic and action are the lowest. If you look here, that's 0.7 and action is 2.7, and those are the lowest numbers here. So, and action films were the lowest at those two numbers, 0.7 and 2.7% respectively. 8 films were also released in other genres. So I'm talking about this now. 8 films were also released in other genres, which made up 5.4% of the release percentage. And this number I'm reporting, so I reported this. Surprisingly, so that's the one thing that Sanjaya talks about, this number. And I thought that was significant, should be mentioned. Surprisingly, the one biopic film was quite well received and accounted for 9.1% of all sales, the highest in this group. The highest in this group, but not in this group, right? The highest among the ones that had single-digit release numbers. Among those, this one was the highest. Biopic was the highest, which is significant. And I tried to be a little bit more focused on trends here and less focused on just reporting data. and that will help me increase my task achievement, right? So this essay will get a high task achievement, and you don't have to mention all numbers when you're dealing with a table like this with all of these numbers. You don't have to, and you can't really, because even the question does not tell you that. It just says by reporting and comparing the main features. Okay, so even the IELTS question does not expect you to report all of the numbers. So be aware that reporting all of these numbers will make your essay go up to 400 words, and that's not a good idea. If you write an essay that is that long, the highest you can go up to is band score 8. You can't go higher than that. Okay, any final questions?
I have some question, Kara.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the sentence among this biopic and action film were the lowest at 0.7 and 2.7 respectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it necessary to mention that, because we didn't talk about romance who has the least 0.8? So I feel like this sentence is repeating the first one, because the first one we mentioned the number of films, so it's the same.
Maybe we could have mentioned romance here, but you have to understand that here I mentioned romance in the overall, avoided romance, right? So I didn't want to repeat that in this paragraph. And then among these, I don't know, maybe I could have mentioned the highest or the lowest, or I could have mentioned none of them. But I thought it would be nice just to mention the lowest two, right? You just try to include some more information.
Is it good to mention that crime and action has almost the same income, or is it extra?
Crime and action, it's not really almost the same. There is like some difference between them, and I wouldn't care too much about that. I wouldn't care too much about that. There is no space, you know. There are a lot of things to talk about, but just there is no space. Even right now, I'm up to 248 words, and that's not great. I would say you have to try to keep it about 200. If you can't write fast, then you shouldn't really go above 200 words.
Because I remember I'm sorry, Carl, but during my last exam, I received that feedback, and they said I didn't mention everything, and there is a lot of extra I didn't mention because it's too much. There is too much data, so I couldn't mention everything. So I don't know if I have to mention everything or not.
It doesn't want you to mention everything. Like, that would be unrealistic to expect you to mention everything. Yeah, I even in band score 9 essays, for example, in that book that we work on together, the course pack, if you go back and look, you will see all data is not mentioned.
Thank you.
And I think, Kara, those feedbacks are common feedbacks according to the band score.
I know what she's talking about. Yes, that's the kind of feedback that's on the back of your result sheet, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is very all common, right, according to the band score.
Yeah.
So
if you look at the band descriptor, you will see that the band descriptor, nowhere in the band descriptor does it say that you have to mention everything. It just says that you have to mention key features and trends. But in the band descriptors, it doesn't say mention everything that you see. I think those are basically canned feedback, and they just copy paste them from somewhere. So they have several different kinds, and then they just copy paste them for different people. They can't just sit down and write a paragraph just about your essay. They're too busy for that.
Okay, thank you, Kara.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, guys?
Thank you so much, Kara.
You're welcome.
Questions.